Can I give a quick shout out real quick?
Please.
Let's go Yankees. Chase for 28.
True. Not that odd. That's like room temp take, but that's all right.
Where's Shohei gonna go?
Obviously, I'm no GM or no Major League Baseball owner, but if I were,
As always, go M's.
I can pronounce it however I want until he tells me personally when he comes and joins the pod as a friend of the pod.
what is good, everybody? Man, I did that again. Last episode, I said I wasn't going to start like that. Hitting that high note. Did it again. I need to stop. Give me that rubber band flick every time I do it to break the habit. But I just want to welcome you. We're going to start over a little bit. I'm going to welcome you to episode 22 of the Broken Bat Podcast. My name is J Rob. I'm joined by Casey and Peter, and we're here to talk about some baseball. The thing we love watching, love going to games, love playing. Not that really any of us play too much anymore. But we just love all things baseball. So we talk all things baseball. Every team, every sport, or every player, everything baseball. Peter, if people want to find us on social media, if they want to see some of our hot takes, if they want to participate in the polls that we're posting every day, if they want to be updated when we drop a new episode, any of that, where are they going to find us? Can you let the people know?
They are going to find us on Twitter and Instagram. Same username, the Broken Bat Pod, no spaces. That's where you're going to find most of our hot takes. Some wild, maybe bets we're going to be placing with each other about, things, whether we say something, have to back up what we say. Try to rein in some certain co-hosts a little bit. It used to be Casey, the master of the hot take. Past couple episodes, we've been following along. I don't know if it's J-Rob not knowing what to do with the losing season, so he's just going crazy, but he's been saying some wild stuff. So, that's where we're going to keep track of the kind of crazy stuff we say and make sure we're holding ourselves accountable. We also have an email, thebrokenbatpodcast@gmail.com. You can reach out to us at any time. Maybe offer J-Rob some help if you have experienced losing season before, if you're a Tigers fan, Royal fan,
Reach out to Mariners fans, yeah.
Yeah, well, we got one that experienced that. You can just text personally. And we also are on YouTube, so you can see our beautiful faces, see some fire City Connect hacks, according to some co-hosts, some, other not biased opinions on the City Connect one. But yeah, so we're out, we're around, and make sure you follow us on whatever you listen to us on: YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, all that. We appreciate all of it. So it's great to see. Casey, let them know what we're talking about today.
We're talking about Teoscar Hernandez's favorite division, the AL East.
Ooh.
That's a good setup. I was like, that is not what we discussed, but
It's like interesting.
I'm
Where
back
is
on board.
this going? I don't know. No, I don't know. First off, for the hot take situation, I wonder if this is like no. I'm not gonna have any hot takes, so don't worry. You don't have to leave again like you did last time. But
I say the Cardinals were gonna win the AL East too.
You know what? If they switch division, if they put all the teams in like a shaker bottle, shook it up, and then threw it out, and everyone was all mixed up in new division, they would win the AL East just before we knew who was in there. But no, I wonder if it's like a fever. Maybe Casey had the hot take fever. Then I was hanging out with him. He passed the hot take fever on to me. Pete, good thing you're in Vegas, or maybe you would catch the hot take fever. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if you can catch it over.
Safe.
Yeah, it's no one's safe, so watch out. But what I don't know where you guys where we want to start with this. I guess my personal feelings, real quick. Right now, I think the AL East, and we've talked about this, is the best division in baseball. Anyone disagree with that?
Have you seen the AL West?
Yeah, I would rank that probably fourth or fifth best division in baseball.
If they're lucky.
Yeah, if they're lucky. The reason you're not six is because the Cardinals are the worst team in the National League, or they would be the sixth worst division in baseball. But no, AL East, best division in baseball, have the best team in baseball. They have, some of the best teams in baseball. Like, not only the best team. I'm trying to just look real quick at some other teams. Yeah, Baltimore's like the third best record. Boston's the like fourth best record. And then
literally only the Braves have more wins than AL East teams.
Yeah.
That the Blue Jays and Yankees, who are last place in the division currently. The Yankees are last, but they have the same amount of wins as the Blue Jays. They have the 7th most. They're tied for the 7th most wins in baseball,
Yeah.
and 5th place in the division.
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
that
the only
shows how
two
that
teams
thing they've done
above,
to start the year.
yeah, is Atlanta and the Dodgers are the only two teams that have. I guess Texas is up there as well, but yeah, because they have 22 wins. But yeah, there's hardly anyone better. So they, by record, clearly the best team or the best division in baseball. How?
Yeah. All 5 teams have positive. And actually, now I'm looking at the AL West. Sorry, Casey. They have 4 teams that have positive run differentials. The AL East has 5, so AL West might be second best.
We
And the
don't.
record
We
not
don't need to
right
get
away,
into that, but yeah.
I want to talk about something in the AL East.
What do you want to talk about?
I need a team. I don't give a shit if it's the Orioles, the Juice Box Bombers, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, even the Red Sox. Someone's got to make a trade to the Mariners to get fucking Teoscar Hernandez off that team and back in the AL
Oh
East.
my
That's where he
gosh,
belongs.
I would
bro.
give up half my lineup for Teoscar Hernandez. Are you kidding me?
Seriously, I don't. Casey, we're not going to really talk about him because he's not in the AL East. Yeah, seriously. But like, you have some issues with that man. What? I don't know. Like, I mean, it's not hard. I don't want to say it's hard to talk about the AL East, but it's almost. There's so many different directions you can go. You could literally talk about every team. How Tampa Bay is like off to one of the best starts, literally in the not the best, but like definitely one of the best starts in like Major League Baseball ever. Baltimore is playing so good right now. Boston's playing better than expected. Toronto's like probably subpar from where they. I wouldn't even say they're subpar where they thought they'd be. 21-16 isn't a bad record. 5 games above 500. Maybe they'd like to be a little bit better, but also
they're 3-7 in the last 10. Toronto's weird. We can talk about. I think Toronto's maybe the most interesting discussion right now. Toronto or Boston. Because I mean the Rays are just like great, so you'd be like, oh, they're kicking ass, they're great, but not a ton more to say. It's awesome to see, but Baltimore is awesome, exciting, younger team, which is cool to see talk about. But Toronto, I think, is very interesting because they have maybe the most expectations this year because their young guys have been up for a few years now. Bichette, Guerrero, their young crew is like doesn't have the excuse of being young as much anymore. And they've had a couple of different stretches where they look hot, they look unbeatable. Like they started off the year a little down, then they made a run. They got to second place in the division, and now they're 3-7 in their last 10, so they're kind of back down to 4th.
Yeah, but I mean, being 21-17 or whatever they are, 21-16,
again, back to the 7th most wins. So not bad at all, but
it's
with
just
their expectation level going in and the talent they have on their team, it's kind of like. Because imagine if they don't make the playoffs, lose the wild card like this year. They're gonna have to, do something. Either, I wouldn't trade Guerrero, but like, you have to make a move at that point with all the expectations going in. So I think they're definitely an interesting team right now to see what happens. But
I mean, I guess starting it off this way, or to ask this question, then we can kind of go from there. How many teams do we think comes out of the AL East? And we can put them in order if we want to, like who wins the division, who's the 1 wild card team, if any, or the 2 or 3 wild card teams. But then kind of talk about like if they don't make the playoffs, what they do. Because to your point, I think Toronto's a really good example of like, what do you do? Because like but for like the last few years they've been a young team with a lot of potential, had some good pieces, like have added some good pieces to try to take that next step, but they're still kind of the same team, or like they've gotten kind of the same results. They haven't been able to go to that next step. So I think things definitely would have to change there, not necessarily like management or anything, but you would have to move some like a bigger pieces or make bigger moves or trades or something to get different bigger pieces to try to put you over the hump.
I still think you're getting 3 playoff teams. You're getting a division winner, obviously, and 2 wild cards at the East.
Who are they?
I honestly, the longer we go in the season, I think we're getting 4 AL East teams. I think they're sweeping the wild card.
Really?
Just because they're all looking so good. And like we talked about with the balanced schedule and like how many teams are kind of like this week so far, there's literally only two series that got swept. The Yankees swept Oakland, and there's another 2-game series that was swept. I can't remember who it was, but so I think a lot of teams are like kind of more average this year, and the AL East being great, getting to play those average teams more. Like at this point, I'm leaning towards 4 AL East teams making it. And I think Boston will be the one who misses out because I do think they're playing above expectations right now, and I think that kind of fade.
Yeah.
The Yankees will get healthier. Toronto, I trust in their talent to at least make the playoffs. So I'm leaning towards picking 4 AL East teams, which is insane to think about, but
Yeah.
with the
What's
balanced
your
schedule, I think it's possible this year.
order? Like who wins division 1, 2, 3?
Tampa wins the division. I don't think that's honestly debatable. Like right now, currently, as we're recording on Wednesday, Tampa has a 4.5 game lead, and Baltimore has the 3rd most wins in baseball.
Yeah.
Like that's disgusting and insane. And Tampa's even slowed down recently. Like we talked before, they've been above an 800 winning percentage. They're 763 right now, but still 4.5 games up in the division. So Tampa's going to win the division. I think I say Toronto 2nd, Baltimore 3rd, Yankees 4th.
Really? You think the
Or
Yankees are
no,
going to finish 4th?
yeah, I do.
Wow.
I do. I think because they're older and more injury prone. So it's like right now, Stanton's on the IL. Judge just got off it. DJ the past couple of years, I forgot about even. Donaldson's on the IL.
Yeah.
DJ's made a couple IL since the past few years, so he'll probably do that at some point. Labor always has a cold streak, so like I think the Yankees are going to be good, 93 to 6-ish wins and make the wild card, but I could see them being 4th just because of their older injury prone history.
Yeah. Casey, how many teams did you say you thought came out of the AL East?
I think it's gonna be 3, and I think it's gonna be Tampa, Toronto, and Baltimore.
In that order?
I think, yeah, I think.
That was intentional.
I mean, like, yes and no, but it's not like for like anything more than like you've said it. The Yankees are so injury prone, and how hot. Like I think the Rays are winning the division like hands down. Like there's just no team that's gonna catch up to them. I don't know how they're doing it, or it just doesn't make sense to me. But they're winning the damn division. I think Toronto will figure it out. I think they just have too many stars. It's kind of like San Diego. Like they are off to a slow start, and I see them by the All-Star break getting hot, or like a little after. I think they're gonna make a run. And I think the Orioles will kind of come back down to earth a little bit, but I think they're just so young and so talented, and they just play really hard, like aggressive baseball, that I don't see them. Like I said, the Red Sox are above expectation right now, and I don't think they'll play this way the entire year. And the Yankees, like you have a great lineup and you have so much talent, but you can never get it on the field at the same time. So I just don't see Boston or New York making that big of a push unless, like, obviously New York gets healthy or Boston somehow rides this magical wave up until October. But I think realistically it's going to be Baltimore, Tampa, and Toronto.
See, because I think the Red Sox for sure are going to fall off. Baltimore, though, it would be if another team like falls off and doesn't get close to me. I would say Baltimore's the one that has like the biggest.
Yeah.
Because the Yankees are going to win 90 games. Like they may or may not make the playoffs, depending whether how healthy they get and if their pitching ever gets healthy. But Baltimore, I think, like you mentioned, because they are so young and like haven't had full season production, and like 162 games is a long time. So we've talked about before, like the Braves a few years ago, 80 whatever games into the season weren't great and had 80 games to turn it around. It also can go the other way, where it's like you play 80 games, you're used to playing that, and kind of like, okay, we still got 80 left and fades. So I don't necessarily predict that can happen to Baltimore, but I could see that as a potential. Like they look good halfway through the season, and then kind of like just with the long grind of the season wearing down. But
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
I don't know. I think it's hard for me to say because you could almost make like, sure, Tampa Bay is the best team in baseball right now, but we're also only 38 games into the season. We still have 145 or so games left to play. Like, there is so much, not 45, 35, 25, I don't know.
43, 143.
143?
120.
No, I think 125. Something, I don't know. 120
No.
plus, 120, 130 games left somewhere in there. I'm going to do some quick math, all right, just so we can get this official.
We're like a fourth of the way into the season, essentially, because we're basically 40 games, and there's
124
basically
games. We have 124 games left. So 124 games. There's so much baseball left to play. Like, do I think Tampa Bay is going to be in it pretty much the whole year? Yeah, even if they have big injuries, like, they would have to have so many big injuries into the right pieces. Like, I feel like if they had 2 big injuries to their starting rotation, I feel like that would hurt them a ton. Like, that injuries to their starting rotation is going to be the downfall of Tampa Bay if they have a downfall. Like, because I don't know, but they're a good team, and yeah, they kind of put it together every year with, like, who knows what players. Like, obviously they have some well-known players on their team, but like, their role players just seem to figure it out and play perfectly on how they should. But I don't know if Tampa Bay wins the division. Yeah, sure, they've been the best team all year, like, clearly the best team, but for some reason I feel like they always, like, fall apart. So, I mean, not like a complete fall apart, but I don't know. And then Baltimore, I agree. I think if there's going to be a team that falls apart in that division, if it's going to be one team, it's going to be Baltimore. They're playing really good right now, but also way better than they're expected and exceeding their expectations. Boston's kind of doing the same thing. Toronto and New York, like, I don't know. Even a month from now, I feel like that division could look a whole lot different. Like, I don't know. I think there's 3 teams.
A whole lot different, real quick. Like,
Yeah.
some teams have really fallen off, or just like a different order, but all the teams are still looking competitive.
A little of both. Like, I don't think anyone in a month from now, I don't think anyone has fallen off. Like, they've just been playing terrible. But I think some teams, like, I think Boston cools off. I think Baltimore cools off a little bit. I even think Tampa Bay cools off a little bit. But I think New York starts to play a lot better. I think Toronto starts to play a lot better. So I guess what I mean by that is just people or teams are going to, like, specifically Toronto and New York are going to start to play a lot better and up to expectations. And then Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and Boston are going to kind of not take their foot off the gas, but they're just not going to be able to fulfill what they've been doing to this point. And so I think that division is just going to be a lot closer because of those things. But I don't know, do you guys know, based off, random question real quick, but this is what I was figuring out. Based off World Series champions in the last 20 years, do you know what is the best division? Does that make sense? So I took the World Series champion of the last 20 years, like the team, and then whatever division that team came from, that's a point for them. So what division has the most World Series champions in the last 20 years?
I feel like this is, like, oddly easy, but, like,
I mean, I know the AL East in the 20 years would be 5.
it's either gonna be, for me,
So
it's the
it'd be
NL
tough for
Central
someone
or
to have more
NL
than 5.
East. I think it's the NL East.
Casey says NL East. Pete, you say AL East?
Yeah, because I mean, 5. That's literally a fourth of the champions.
Yeah, it's AL East with 5, and NL East had 4, and so did NL West had 4. So because the Red Sox have 4 of those since 2003.
And the thing is, if you extend it a couple years, the Yankees have like
3
so
right
even
there.
if you go last, it makes it even more for the Yankees. So
yeah. So yeah, Boston has 4, Yankees have 1. In the NL East, what I thought was interesting, 4 separate teams. So the Braves won in 21, going backwards, Nationals won in 19, Phillies won in 08, Marlins won in 03. And then the West had 4 as well. Dodgers in 20, Giants in 14, Giants in 12, Giants in 10. That was a great era for the Cardinals. We should have won more, but that's all right. And then the NL Central had 3, AL Central had 2, AL West had 2. So Cubs once, Cardinals twice, Royals and White Sox, and then Astros twice. So I don't know. I actually kind of forgot about the AL Central. Like I was trying to think who was the last one, but I forgot about the Royals, and they were actually somewhat recently. But I don't know.
Depressing.
What?
That's so depressing.
What? Which part?
The Royals
The
have
fact
won more
the
recently than you.
The Royals have won more recently. They've been to a World Series, and here my bitch asses not even sniffed a World Series.
Yeah, I mean, if the next year the AL West gets a different team in the Angels, and then the NL West different team in the Diamondbacks, then yeah, the Yankees 3, Marlins, Yankees, Braves, no World Series. Toronto won 2, the Twins in '91, the Reds in 1990, Athletics in '89. I mean, obviously you can go on and on, but I don't know. It surprised me. Okay, here's my question though. If you take the last 20 years, is the AL East the best? And Pete, take your bias hat off if you can. Is the AL East the best division in the last 20 years? I mean, yes, they have the most World Series wins the last 20 years, but again, 4 out of those 5 have been one team. So just because there's one really good team, does that mean like they're the best? And kind of the same with the NL West. I mean, the Giants won 3 out of 4 times in the last 20 years. But who's been the best? This is kind of sidetracking a little bit, but who's been the best division in the last 20 years? Do we think? Casey, what are your thoughts? Or Pete, you go if you're going.
I would still pick the AL East because not only are they like winning World Series, like you said, mostly the Red Sox, but pretty much always we have. I literally can't remember a time when we didn't have at least 2 playoff teams, if not 3. Like,
Yeah,
they're pretty much always the wild card representative as well. So, because it's like, I mean, the Yankees obviously made the playoffs every single, but they didn't win the division every year with Jeter. And I think they missed like twice in like 30 years or 40 years, whatever. It's an insane number. So, not only are they like winning championships when they get there with teams, but like they're always representing. I would say, I mean, NL East is potentially in contention because, like you talked about, they literally have had 4 different teams, but they also have like more down periods, I would say, where it's like the Braves just win for like 15 years and
yeah,
nobody else really is like consistently battling them. So I think because of not only are they always having a strong division winner, like you have to win 100 games to win the division pretty much in the AL East, because you also are always sending a wild card team, if not multiple wild card teams. So
yeah,
I definitely, I'm kind of curious if I can look that up.
Yeah.
And see whether like how consistent it is or like total playoff teams. Like I don't know even what to Google. I tried to Google that, but like it didn't pop up with.
Well, I'm calculating right now as well just how many teams have been to the, so essentially who were the losing teams in the last 20 years and what division did they belong to as well. So like I've done the AL East and the NL East. Both those teams had 3 teams that went to the World Series and lost in the last 20 years. So that's a total of 8 for the AL East and 7 for the NL East. But Casey, do you agree AL East is the best division in the last 20 years, regardless of like who's won the World Series or what?
Yeah, because I feel like Boston always has like either those years where they finish last, and then next year or next 2 years they win the World Series, and it's like that vicious cycle. Those Jeter teams like A-Rod and all those are pretty dominant in the early 2010s. Obviously the Rays of lately. I mean, yeah, I say the AL East is probably the best team in like the past 20 years or so. It's between them and the NL East, but I think the AL is a little bit better.
I mean, literally the Rays, since they got good in 2007, between the Rays, Yankees, and Red Sox, they've had maybe 2 bad years apiece since 2007. And Toronto's been good for 4 or 5 years now. They were bad most of that stretch, but Baltimore even had a couple runs with like Buck Showalter and stuff. So it's like they've had 3 teams that are pretty much always good, and then the other 2 kind of have had at least stretches within those 20 years of like 5-6 years where they've been competitive. So it's like to have that level of competition all the time is insane.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, it's tough because I think for a lot of divisions as well, like looking at this, the NL Central, specifically with the Cardinals, So winning the World Series and then also just being to the World Series, there's been a total of 5 teams in the last 20 years. The Cardinals are 4 of those 5 teams. Like it's so essentially the Cardinal. I mean, granted, Cubs won in 2016, but the Cardinals in the last 20 years have been the only one to even make it to the World Series, minus that 1 year for the Cubs, and that was honestly kind of like, sure, they had a couple good years with like Rizzo, Bryant, and Baez, but like they're pretty much a one and done team almost. Like they were good, but never could put it all together until the 1 year they won.
Yeah, it's one great. Yeah.
And then, so yes, but besides that, it's been the Cardinals. AL West, it's been the Astros. Like, so the Astros won it twice, and then they've been 4 times in the last 20 years, and the Astros were 2
You gotta
of those
remember
times.
too, they weren't even in the AL West until like what 2013, 2014. So that's even only half the time. So
Yeah. Well, and the 2 of the 4 times they made it in the last 20 years, what I mean,
from the NL.
well,
wasn't
no,
it?
they were AL. Well, because they made it in 2021, lost to the Braves. They made it in
Oh,
2019,
gotcha,
lost to the
yeah.
Nationals. So they've made it
Yeah, I
like
forgot.
it's all been recent, and it's all been Astros, and then it was the Rangers when they went back to back in 2010 and 2011 and lost both times. So those have been the only, like AL West has pretty much been one team. So I think especially for the NL Central, AL West, those for sure, like I don't even think are in discussion for the best division in the last 20 years, because it's really just been like kind of one team that's been like that's pretty much always gone.
Yeah, I will also say, because we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, like we talked about the Cardinals won in 06
Yeah.
with their 80 wins as a wild card team.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, if you have 83 wins in the AL East, you're not even sniffing the playoffs. Like
Yeah.
you were eliminated months ago just
Yeah.
because you have to have 90, 95 plus wins to make the playoffs as an AL East team because of how competitive it is.
Yeah. And that's what, like, that's why I'm honestly so excited for like the even schedule or whatever. I can't even remember what that's called, but essentially each team playing every single team in a year, because I think it really is going to like it just show. And I feel like even though it's a small sample size, we've kind of already seen like how good the AL East is, but then I also think it's an example, like for the Pirates, if you take them for example, like when they started to lose recently, they were going up against the Tampa Bay Rays. They went up against, who's the other really good team they played? I feel like
Blue Jays.
the Blue Jays. Like all the
Blue Jays were 7 in their last 10, and that was sweeping the Pirates.
Yeah, and that's also like if sure maybe they're playing if it was like last year they're playing the AL East this year, but then they wouldn't have to go play Houston, or they wouldn't have to go play the Rangers, who are actually looking really good this year, or they just wouldn't have to play all these good teams. And so and you would just get to beat up on the Cardinals, who aren't playing well right now, the Reds, who are terrible, the Cubs, who are terrible. Like you're not playing as many teams that aren't as good or whatever. And I mean, to the point of why the AL East has so many wins is they're not playing each other so much, so it doesn't even out as much, but they're playing the Reds, the Cardinals, the Pirates, whoever. Like Boston, we're going to Boston on Friday. The Cardinals are, and we'll start a 3-game series in Boston. Like you're playing every team. We just played Seattle a few weeks ago. So I think the balanced schedule just really shows, in my opinion, and we've talked about this before, but just kind of who the best in the league is. So I like that this is what we're to, just because I think it helps shows all that.
Agreed. I definitely think it'll be cool. And as a Yankees fan, I like to not get my ass kicked by the Rays 19 times in a year. So
LOL.
that works for me. That's, I'll take that. So yeah, I think that's good. I think the AL East, it's just looking great out of the box, taking advantage of playing the other teams like you talked about.
Yeah.
Even other good teams, like the Pirates were great until they stepped up to the AL East, and it's like, well, what the hell happened to the Pirates? Like,
yeah.
So not that it'll necessarily happen all the time, but
yeah, I think it's also a good example, like we were saying, who I can't remember last episode we were talking about, just for an upcoming series that is for this weekend. Oh, Atlanta and Toronto. Like, not that I think they're going to be the 2 World Series teams necessarily, but that is Like, that's not, if I were to say, oh, I think Atlanta and Toronto are going to be in the World Series this year, that wouldn't be like mind blowing to very many people, if anyone at all. Like, those are two teams that could, obviously, nothing's for sure, but that could make the World Series this year. And so, that's also another thing is you get to see those matchups at least at some point throughout the year to kind of see how those teams match up. And granted, one team could be really hurt at that point or whatever, but like obviously it's not going to be an exact indication of what would happen in the World Series, but I at least when it gets to World Series, like when we're the days before the World Series when we know the matchup but teams haven't played, we can know, or there's like a good pitching duel or pitching matchup, we can look back to that series and see if they played like earlier that year and seeing like, oh yeah, they matched up, this is how the game went. Again, not that the same thing will necessarily happen, but you'll for sure have that, like at least the teams playing each other because every team plays each other. So I think that will be something really cool as well, just to kind of look back to see how it went earlier in the year.
Casey, any?
Yeah, your thoughts?
I don't know, man. Like, I hate the AL East, to be honest with you, because they're always so damn good, and it makes me cringe. It makes me just upset because there's just so many good markets, so many good. I mean, I respect the AL East. I think when the AL East is good, and this is kind of going off a different tangent, I guess, than what you guys were talking about. But the AL East, to me, when they're good, baseball is better because it's more entertaining. It's more prime time because you have your storied like Red Sox, Yankees, Orioles, even the Blue Jays. The Rays are kind of the new guys on the street or new kids on the block. So like, I hate playing the NL East teams because they're always so damn good for so whatever reason. Even like the Orioles, like when the Orioles are having a down year, or even the Rays. I mean, the Rays haven't had a down year in a while, but like you can never count them out. And to me, baseball is just better as a whole when you have good competition all the way around. And I think it's kind of showing to like with this, like your current going back to like your strength of schedule. Um, these teams are just good. Like I don't know how to put it. Like the Central, I wish the NL or the AL Central would be better. I wish the AL West would have these kind of competitive teams, but like I don't know, man. It's fun to watch, especially because like there's so many good players in that division as well, with like Judge, Rafael Devers, Vlad, like Adley Rutschman. Like there's you can look at any team and pick out at least two or three, if not four, potential all stars on any given team. So it's fun. I mean, it sucks. I'm glad I'm not in that division, and I'm glad that it's only Pete because Pete's gonna deal with it and not me. But I don't know. I hate the division, but I also like have a lot of respect for the division.
Yeah, it'll be. I mean, I agree. It'll also be interesting. Or one thing I didn't even like, I totally forgot about until we looked at this is Tampa Bay actually went to the World Series in 2020 and lost to the Dodgers. But yeah, they've been good. Pete, you say it all the time since like 2007. Like, granted, haven't made it to the World Series every year, but I mean, they made it to the World Series in 2008 as well and lost to the Phillies. Like, they've been a couple times even in the last decade or whatever, 20 years.
Quite one, yeah, they've been. Yeah, I just remember because I just remembered 2006. Now it's 14 wins minimum every single year. It was so nice,
Yeah,
just easy, relaxing series, and not anymore.
yeah.
I think I
Quite
read
the
some stats,
opposite.
looked it up, but I think in the last like 13 years, the Rays and the Yankees are literally 500 versus each other.
Dang.
Like I don't remember exactly. And it might have changed
Yeah.
since their last series, but
Somewhere
essentially,
around there. Yeah.
like, yeah, right in that ballpark, which is insane. When it's like if you add up the like 13 years worth of Rays payrolls,
Yeah.
it might equal what the Yankees spend this year. So
Yeah.
it's like
It's
probably
incredible.
not actually that extreme, but maybe I'll look that up for next pod if I remember to get the exact details. But yeah, it wasn't surprising because they've been such a tough team, but it's like also still somewhat surprising when you think like Yankees and Rays, just organization wise. Like if you talk to like casual baseball fan, maybe not as locked in,
Yeah.
they would always be like, of course the Yankees have a winning
Yeah.
record versus the Rays.
If you were to even ask me, I would say the Yankees. Like,
yeah, but it's just it just goes to show like how competitive it really is when the Tampa Bay Rays are that great. Like, so
yeah.
it's cool, best in baseball, but
Unfortunate. I hate saying that just because I want the National League Central to be the best division, but National League Central is probably the worst division in baseball, unfortunately. And yes,
Yeah, a
AL East is
couple of
definitely the best. So,
organizations to step up.
yeah. But let's go with last words. Casey, what do you got for me? Or what?
Here,
Are you
real
ready
quick
for this?
before we go,
Yeah.
did you give us your prediction for how many playoff teams there's going to be in their rankings?
I don't know if I did. I think if it was, I think I was going to say 3 because I think there's 3 coming out of the East, just the division winner in the Central, so just 1, and then 2 out of the West. I think, honestly, at this point, I don't even know out of the West who's going to win the division or who's going to win the wild card, just because, yeah, I mean, even Houston's not looking great right now, and we don't necessarily need to go into all that, but I think 2 of those teams kind of pull up, but I honestly think Baltimore and Boston kind of fall off, and I think it's Tampa Bay, I don't know what order, but Toronto and New York are the 3 teams out of the East. But yeah, Casey, last final words.
They're singing, go, Cubs, go! Go, Cubs, go!
I can't wait for Teoscar Hernandez to leave the Seattle Mariners organization in free agency. I wish him the best of luck. And go M's.
Interesting. Peter?
Actually relevant to the AL East, DFA Aaron Hicks, chase for 28.
Oh. I'm going to say go Cardinals. 12 and 23. The journey to 12th World Series championship. Journey to 12. And I'm just keep on rooting for the Cardinals because they're taking 4 of 6 games minimum between the Cubs and Boston. Obviously, they took care of business with Chicago 1, 2 out of 3, and they start their series today on Friday with Boston. So game 1 today. Adam Wainwright's on the rubber. Excited for that. Second start of the year. And we're going to catch that dub day. Shoot, bring your glove, boys. But that's it. We're going to wrap it up again. Casey, for your information, yeah, 1-year deal, $14 million is what you're paying Teoscar to be probably, arguably, hitting-wise, the best player on your team. Oh, actually, number 2 behind Jared Kelenic, and you want to get rid of him for some reason. But if you guys like what you're hearing, please hit that follow button. We appreciate you guys listening, checking us out. Find us on the socials. Peter told you earlier where you can find us. We appreciate you guys checking us out and listening to us. If you have questions or comments, anything, hit us up. Let us know because we love to talk about it. We'll see you next time on the Broken Bat Podcast.